being in a position of leadership is one thing, but taking set position during chaos storm is a whole other feeling. What's it like to be the top dog in the hot seat? This is Tag You're It.
That's exactly what it is. Like, oh, hey man, you're taking over. You got this. It's good to see you here. I'm glad you showed up. Especially like on a deployment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the helos landed. The guy's getting off the helo. He's like all fresh faced, starry eyed, looking forward to it. And you're kind of all beat down. They just kind of high five and like, is there anything I need to know? Anything important you need to relay on to me? Nah, man, everything's ticking like a clock. You got it. Take care. And then you show up and it looks like a bomb exploded in there. Nothing's working right. There's two guys fighting in the corner of the hangar. There's dogs chewing on a bone, chewing on some old aircraft parts in the corner. Looks like a blown out war zone, you know? Pretty much it.
Pretty much.
Oh my God. He said everything was working fine. What's his definition of working fine?
Right. I feel our expectations need to be a little bit higher than what you just explained.
Yeah. I guess if your definition of working is that all personnel involved are still alive, then okay.
Yeah. Even that has its own share of its definitions. Like the house is standing, but everything else doesn't work.
Yeah, what was that meme? It was a vending machine. It says, the light in me has died, but I still work. And it just said, me too, vending machine, me too.
Yes. Me too, machine, me too.
But that's exactly kind of how it is, right? So, and from my own personal experience, recently I've taken over manager's position within my department. And so I got a little bit of turnover from the outgoing guy, and he gave me a heads up on certain things and kind of what to look out for day to day, which was nice. But then like my second week into it, all of a sudden an auditor group shows up and like, hey, how you guys doing? Is there an MVP here? Say, yeah, I'm him. Oh, okay, great. We're here to audit you and look at all your processes and make sure how you guys are tracking things properly. And we're going to look at X, Y, and Z. They had a whole list of stuff. And I'm just like,
What?
Like, did you not know we were coming? No, not at all. Oh, well, we're here now. So let's get into it. Oh, my God.
Like, can we just reschedule? I mean, like, I wasn't ready.
No. Yeah.
No.
So it's kind of one of those things where now you're in the hot seat and you're like, oh my God, I'm still trying to learn the position. I'm still trying to learn the HR side of things. I'm still trying to learn all of it, right? And then also dealing with an audit. Now I was very fortunate. The outgoing guy had his stuff together, so they didn't find not one discrepancy. Maybe dumb stuff like, oh, little fuzz under the stairs type write-ups, but I'll take those. I don't care about those write-ups. You know what I mean? But as for processes and tracking items and everything else that goes in with mission assurance, they didn't find any gripes this time. So I was very fortunate that I did take over a pretty well-oiled machine, but it's just the fact that lack of information, right? Like, oh God, was I supposed to do something for this? You know? That was the hot seat where I was like, oh no, I can feel the burn.
Ooh. See, myself, I've had the exact opposite of that. So we're in the middle of an inspection. It's ongoing. We knew the inspection was happening, and they get to this one department, and there's no person in charge. Period. So the people working, they just basically went leaderless during the whole time the inspection's going on. And then the day they do that inspection for that department, my boss's boss comes by like, hey, Tapsy Do 6, you're now the boss of this section. Like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah.
I think you're mixing me up with another 6. His 6 starts with a Y, mine starts with an I. So and so here I am, like, fresh new role. Here's my new letter saying I'm the man and everything like that. Nothing else about it has been updated to include the inspectors. So I go over there, I introduce myself. Hey, I'm the new boss for this department. Like, just let me know what you guys need. And oh, by the way, like I literally just took this over. So any type of inspections, we got to take this as like a learning curve. And a light bulb goes in their head and they just start smashing bags. They start blaming me for everything, everything. This program is not up to code. This program over here is not within spec. This one is, I don't even know how to describe this one. And they're just tagging me. I'm like, I just told you literally 5 seconds ago, like, I'm the new guy and I have no idea what's going on. So why are you guys like just blaming me as if this was entirely my fault? Like, I don't understand. And I can see like they have like this giddy look in their face, like, yeah, I'm gonna get you for this one. I'm also gonna get you for this one. Like, what the hell, dude? Like,
Yeah, those guys must have just been dicks out the gate, though, as individuals, you know, because most people are like, oh, okay, he's new here. He's only been here a week. He's still trying to, you know, figure out who's who and what's what and where they're at with this process and all that. But instead, they're like, oh, this is an opportunity where we can shine by finding all these anomalies, you know.
right.
And you're the one who has to answer for him. Like, it was the last guy. I hit them up, you know.
Yeah. And that's what I kept saying. Like, I mean, I have no idea what is going on, but I can get the guy who was in charge before me to answer for a lot of this shit. And it's like, oh no, that's fine. So I'm like calling this dude. Hey man, they're looking for this. I have no idea where it's at. Like, do you know where it is? And he just straight up tells me, like, yeah, I never do that shit. No one actually looks at that. Like, well, they're looking at it now. They're looking at it now. So what have you done with it? And where is it? I'm like that doesn't exist. No one actually looks for that. Like,
Oh, my favorite thing. I kind of went through something like that too, and they're like, it's in the SharePoint. Well, that's fantastic. There's no less than 5,000 items under the SharePoint. So could you narrow it down to a specific folder subsection for me? give me
right.
An idea, because I've looked in all the areas that I would have thought it would have been, and then they hit you with that. Oh, you know what? I think I had that saved on my desktop. Oh my god. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I actually had one where like that. We're like, yeah, it's in the SharePoint. Like, okay. And so I go to that SharePoint and I pull it up and it's empty. Like, and it says last updated like a year ago. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, you go in there and everything's misdated, mislabeled because they obviously just didn't care what they were doing, or it's like missing, right? So like for mission assurance, you know, we have to do so many audits and inspections a month, and we look at certain items within those documents, and so, but then you go, and there's supposed to be like a schedule, right? On January you look at this, February you look at this, and it just annual cycles, right? Like that. But you go in there and you're like, okay, somebody asks you high in the chain, hey, can you give me the data on the pass rates and all that from the February inspection? You go in there and, you know, February inspection of 2018, you go in there and there's 2017, no 2018, 2019. You're like, well, where's the 2018 at, you know? And so you're trying to find, like, of all the ones that they wanted, that's the one I don't have. And then you finally reach, like you said, you reach out to the person in charge before, and you're like, oh yeah, I think we skipped it, but I can't remember why we skipped it. Okay, well, the auditors want to know where it's at, so if you can give me any answer, lie to me if you want. I don't care at this point. I just need something to give them.
Right. That was our paper shredding session where we had to get rid of evidence. So you didn't hear this from me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like the inspection's going on. It's already terrible because I mean, and then all the guys there, they're seeing me like having like this internal implosion because I'm trying to answer for shit. I have no idea what the hell they are. I don't know what directives are govern that program. I don't know like all the inspection points for that program. I'm like, it's one thing to actually do the work. It's another thing to control the work. If anyone's out there that can relate, like it's easy to say like, okay, yeah, I shadow toolboxes because, you know, that's the cool thing to do. But to be the one in charge of making sure that said toolboxes are shadowed and why they are like that, it's a totally different world. And just getting all that stuff like smashed in your face, I'm like, oh my fucking god, man! Like, can you cut me just a tidbit of slack? And so the inspection team that was doing it, they have like 3 grades. And I'm pretty sure almost every audit has a similar grading system where like they say It's on track. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's on track, but it needs a little bit of work. And then there's like off track as fuck. Like you guys are lucky to even still be working with a job here.
Derailed, yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing. And they say it in a nicer way than how I said it, but for in general, it's a similar grading system. So they would have off tracked me the whole way through, and I had every right to because I had no fucking clue what was going on. We had no records of just about anything, and the records we did have was just absolute trash. So instead, they just gave me like they said off track, but we understand, kind of like off track with an asterisk. But
yeah, off track, but we know the reason why it is type thing.
Yeah, it's like, well, this dude literally just came in like today, and he had to answer for literally everything. So that was nice. But from what the auditor said to what the senior level management understood was a totally different thing. So all they saw was off track. They didn't see the tiny asterisk, and they just started blaming me like, "How dare you fail this place?" and da da da. Like, time the fuck out. Time out.
Hold on.
You put me in the seat literally as the plane's crashing. You can't blame the pilot when it's already crashing.
You said save me. I came to save you, and as soon as I showed up, you pulled your parachute and bailed.
Yeah, that's literally how it felt. Like, wow, dude, like, what did I just get myself into? Right? Because whenever you hear something like, hey, you're going to be the person in charge, you're going to be the crew chief, you're going to be the manager, well, whatever the title is that actually gives you a seat of influence, you start feeling good about yourself. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then they put you in the middle of a fire as it's burning. Like, okay. Like that one meme with the dog and everything's burning around. He's just sipping his coffee. Like, this is fine.
This is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So another part of it, right? We had mentioned hot seat. So I think within my first 3 days of getting to the position, I get a master sergeant after one of our morning meetings say, "Hey, come to my office. I need to discuss something with you." So we were talking about we had an aircraft that was impounded probably a month prior to that conversation. And so he, once we're done, we send them all the reports of findings and what the resolution was and the nice PowerPoint and all this kind of stuff and all the supporting documentation that we use to, if we had to get engineering, memos or whatever to get repair instructions and all that, we have to provide all that stuff to the customer. So she's sitting there talking. He says, "Hey, we were going through the impound stuff and there's some anomalies here. What the PowerPoint saying was the resolution is to what the aircraft logbook is saying is two different things. And that also doesn't match the engineering direction given to repair said item." And they're like, so either somebody's lying to us or there's just a miscommunication. But I'll leave that to you to figure out because, it was either, it was either they thought either us or the company was lying to them that we were trying to hide maybe a mishap that one of the technicians would have done, or two, it was miscommunication, which everything that I've researched so far looks like it was just miscommunication within the maintenance realm, or three, that the repair instructions were half-assed written and then the technicians followed that, but it induced a problem, right? And so the customer was leaning towards that it was half-assed instructions, so they were that's what they wanted me to research and see if they could narrow down, because they want to then go to the engineering realm and say, you guys suck, do better type thing. But I have to find that out first. And just so you know, if we find out it's a mishap or whatever, he goes, it might be a car. He goes, I'm leaving it in your hands to fix right now. But he goes, I want an answer. I'm like, oh my God. And I wasn't even involved with that impound, I wasn't even around. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to try to figure out and piece things together from an aircraft that's not even here at this location. Like, it's it's a nightmare. And so after the end of that conversation, what I was getting to, the end of the conversation, he goes, welcome to the hot seat. This is what you get when you're the man. And I was like, Yep, fucking great. Thank you, sir. And then I just got up and left. It's like, okay, thanks.
uh, so I was talking to one of our listeners just before this, and I said, "Hey, have you ever had an issue like what we're talking about with the hot seat?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, all the time, man. Um, it's such a common thing in I guess certain parts of the commercial airline realm that they nickname this action as the upgrade, right? Instead of the hot seat, they call it the upgrade. So they come through an inspection. Excuse me. The lead mechanic or the lead supervisor or the lead whatever is not there or for whatever reason. So they would air quote upgrade somebody that has some kind of intelligence. It's like, okay, today and today only, you are the guy on the hot seat. I'm like, cool, I guess. So imagine
do they do that just because the head honcho is not there and they need a body to fill the seat for the day, or do they use it as like, hey, let's take the new guys, put them in this position so they can get a little experience, a little OJT? Because there's a little bit of a difference, right? If somebody's being put in there for training purposes, okay, but if it's one of those like, none of us want to do it, and the guy who usually does it isn't here, so we all voted to have you do it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more of the second one. So
I figured as much, just because all shops are kind of that way, but I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Right. And I can understand that. So like he was saying this stuff like, wow, this is pretty widespread. Tag, you're it. Thanks. And you pretty much have to you pretty much have to know the full scope of everything, even though that's not where your realm of awareness is at. And then you got to answer for like way back when stuff like. And so now you just do like the nodding, the involuntary head nod, like you're deaf, but you're just pretending to understand. Like, yes, yes,
yes, okay, all right, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Or what's that one episode of Rick and Morty where like Jerry's in a time loop and he's in a simulation and that's all they say? He's like, yes. Yeah. Like they just glitch for like 3 seconds. Yes. And Jerry thinks he's actually being rewarded.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so with that being put in the hot seat, right, that can suck, especially when turnovers and pass downs and are everything, especially if you're especially if you're taking on a newer role with more responsibility. Now I know not all situations allow for that and they don't plan for that. In some instances, the person ahead of you just quit because they had enough. And so you're drinking from a fire hose with the information. Now, that wasn't my case, fortunately, but there was still a time crunch. There wasn't as much of a turnover as I would have liked. I would have liked to work with that individual and follow them around day to day and done hands-on with the reports and kind of learning where things are at. But to it, just being thrown in the seat is trial by fire, and it's either sink or swim. And in some cases, I guess it's also good because you just have to figure it out, but you figure it out your way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're not taking somebody else's process and like, okay, this is how they've done it and it was working, so I'm doing it that way. You don't really know why you're doing it that way. That's just the way you were shown.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but having to figure it out on the fly almost makes you, and then you don't forget, right? So you had to figure it out. So, and that was a stressful situation. So now it's like ingrained in you to do it this way and that way because it's streamlined and you got the information faster and everything else. So I guess there are some positives to it.
Right. And that's like what you would call creating an opportunity from a crisis. Right. So like you were just saying, like, so now you pretty much had to not invent the process, but you had to make the process understandable to you. And at least you have a very good grasp of how it should be ran, like what it's actually asking you to do, and then how you can actually apply it to work out for you. And exactly that, I would have so many processes in mind, and I had no idea what they're for or why we do it that way, other than this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, the first guy wrote it up that way, and then trained the next guy that way, and the next guy that way, and the next guy, and so on down the line, and nobody ever bothered to reinvent the wheel, because why waste the time if there's a process there and it already works? But if nobody explains that to you, you might have just subconsciously found a streamlined way to get the same end result. You know what I mean?
Yes. And what I hate about all that is, like, say you've put out the fire, you waited the storm, you've figured out how to do what's being asked of you, and you streamline the process in a way that's to your understanding. And somewhere, either lateral management, vertical management, or somebody to that effect, they somehow hate your process because it's too streamlined, or it's not into the cookie cutter shape that they expected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, you can't do it that way. That's not how our process works. Like, yeah, but I'm doing what the main objective is asking me to do. And there's no clear cut way of saying how it should be done. So I'm just bridging the gap.
Thing, though, right? They say it's not the way they like to see it, and you're like, but you're not the one doing the process. So they basically, hey, I want it to look a certain way. I'm not the one doing the work, but I want it to look a certain way. And like you said, it doesn't follow our process. Well, I'm doing it this way because we don't have a process in place. So I'm creating one. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. But I don't like the layout of it. Can you change this to this and that? No, I'm going to do it this way. And when I send it to you, God, you can modify it however you want for whoever you send it to. But this is how it's going to come from me.
Right. Oh my God, I used to hate that to the highest of degrees. Like, well, I don't want to prove. It's not how I would have done it. Like, well, that's cool, but you're not the one down here to get all this information and compile it and translate it. So you're just getting the end product, and it's easy for you to critique when you already have the answers to the test.
Right. Yeah, you didn't have to put any effort into it. I don't know, but like I said, being in the hot seat like that, or getting the old tag, you're it, good luck. It makes you have to. While initially it kind of sucks, in the long run, when you look back, you're like, it sucked initially, but once I figured it out, now it's easy for me because I figured out my way, and I do it this way because it makes sense to me. And another thing I've started doing since getting into this is, we were talking about no processes, right? Is I've started also writing down where certain things are located, where we put things, why we do things a certain way, and what information's got to go where. So let's just say for some reason, I get ill, right? We got this whole Delta variant coming out, and I get ill, and I'm going to be out of work for a little while. At least I have instructions there for even my boss, because my boss will probably have to also do his job and then step back and do mine as well. So at least he'll have an understanding of the day in and day out grind and where that information's at. And also, right, for like, I have my right hand man. He's me when I'm not around. So that instruction's there for him too. And he's really awesome. Like, I'm learning probably more from him than he is actually learning from me. He's fantastic. But just those kind of things, like, hey, I created this over here so we could start tracking this and this and that. So if somebody asks a question, I've compiled this data in this location, just trying to organize things. So situations don't happen like what happened to you when you took over the shop in the middle of an inspection.
Yeah. Charlene, I'm sure you had some situations like this where, like, you're only covering this area of awareness, and then all of a sudden, here, data dump. Now you got everything. Oh,
I've got at least one story that touches on, I think, everything we've talked about today. So, a company I was working for, I started off as an intern there in the shop, just doing shop stuff. So prepping, de-prepping gear, maintaining gear, stuff like that. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and they said, hey, and I've got an opportunity for you to just work for us full time, but it's not in productions and it's not in the shop. It's as an estimator for our install jobs. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'd love to just work one place full time. And at the time, I think I was making like $15 an hour. And I was like, yeah, cool. That works for me. It's less of a commute. So I did that for like a year and a half. That alone was a pain. I won't get into that. But then a year and a half later, I haven't hardly done any production gigs during this time. Even at the time that I entered this new position, I was very low man on the totem pole. Like I was just kind of getting my bearings on being an audio guy. And then I got stuck in an office for a year and a half. And then they were like, hey, we need somebody to crew chief this, for this venue, which was our biggest client at the time. And it was audio, video, lighting, everything. And me being desperate to get back into productions was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Whatever. And I'd seen how kind of some of the shows had gone and realized kind of where some improvements could be made, but I didn't realize how deep the problems were. And so like the first day showed up and there were no truss bolts. And like the very first thing you do when you get on site is put together truss. And if you don't have truss bolts, you can't do that. So, because on the prep sheet, truss bolts weren't on there, so the shop didn't prep them. This venue is 2.5 hours away from our shop, one way. So luckily we had a company down south that we just rented from for that. But it was just like one thing after another. Somebody got electrocuted. Like it was just all of these things on my very first crew chiefing gig. And it was not a good time. And on top of that, at the time, they were like throwing audio stuff with video stuff and all that stuff with lighting stuff. So like there was no system as far as like separating anything. And like, so like to locate literally anything took forever. And it was a mess. So what I ended up doing is I ended up like creating a color coordinating system. Like yellow is video, green is lighting, and orange tape is audio. So that you can at least easily identify like, cool, this is an audio case. But it took some time, and that venue got better. But and then I was like, it's working to a point where I don't want to be the crew chief guy. I want to go back to being the audio guy. And then they put somebody in that seat, in the crew chief seat, that would realize that I knew more about the venue or more about crew chiefing in that room than they did. And they would leave in the middle of a show or like in the middle of a load in or a load out and not be available. So that would mean that I would have to, as the audio guy, crew chief the show. And that was always very frustrating, which led to me leaving.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. It's when you listen to those things, and it just makes me think back to even taking over what I've just done, or not really what I just done, but like past overseas assignments. Somebody's been there 9-10 months straight and has just ran it into the dirt, and then they're like, I'm going home, I don't give a shit. And then you got to come in and try to make it work for you, because it's not working, and it wasn't really working that well, and the customer is starting to notice, so they're getting upset. So now they're looking to you for quick resolution, being the new person in there, and you're like, oh my god. So, but you made it work, and now you know how to crew chief the right way, and you know what things to look at ahead of time before you ever even leave shop. And you know what I mean? It's one of those kind of you get burned once, but you learn from it. And I've had a few of those instances over my career for sure.
Yeah, I've definitely not been burned in the same way regarding like stuff being prepped at the shop like that ever again. Like I've never forgotten truss bolts since. I've never, all that kind of stuff.
And even if you're not the one crew chiefing, you're still asking the crew chief, hey, we got them truss bolts though. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that just because it destroyed your day and the first time doing it. So it's just, you'll never forget it.
I mean, yeah, it cost us like 5 hours and like 14 people on the clock, 5 hours. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
Like that one mistake cost us a lot of time.
You know what I noticed, MVP, as we're talking about it, like someone is ready to leave, he just doesn't care anymore, and then here's the new guy coming through, and then everyone's expecting solutions. whenever you get put into the hot seat, or now the new term I'm starting to use a lot is the upgrade, is they tend to both the people who are going through it and the ones who are overseeing the problem. They tend to oversimplify the problem, right? They just say, "Oh, hey, there's a gap in this. We need you to fix it." Cool.
Yeah, they don't give you the full in-depth details, the entire situation. They just make it seem like it's a little scratch in the surface, and really it's a deep gouge.
Yeah. Like in Shoreland's case, right? Like, oh, they just forgot here's and theirs, and then you go down and really look into it, like, oh, ooh,
Like they forgot half the kit we need. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, the reason that I was put in the crew chief position in the first place. It's because the person that was doing it before said no. And he's like, I'm not doing this again. I refuse to work in this venue because you guys can't get your shit together. And he stopped working there.
Well,
And like I was getting paid $15 an hour to go crew chief and be in charge of people that were making 2 to 3 times as much as I was.
that sounds like so many places I've worked where the minute somebody gets themselves into an upgrade spot, they go hands off, and then they delegate everything that they should be doing down to the next guy when they should be themselves overseeing that and making the guy right below them's life a little easier. And in turn, that guy below them works harder. So nothing goes up and makes the upgraded guy's job harder. You get what I'm saying? Like you got to work in tandem, but there's so many people that get themselves in a supervisory role or a manager role and they go, boop, hands off. It's not my problem no more. You guys take care of that.
For sure. Well, and it's also hard because in that situation, like the salesman for the show, who was really the only person that was ahead of the crew chief, is also one of the owners of the company. So it's like, how are you going to sit there and tell him he's, not doing it right?
yeah,
Well, and it's hard to tell the owners that you're not doing it right, but like in yours, mine, and Six's situation, we've all voted with our feet. We only put up with it for so long until we tell them like you're fucked up, but we tell them that by I don't want to work here anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's wrong? I thought everything was cool. And like everything's not cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then they wonder like, oh, well, what could we have done different? How could we have made you happier? Like, you could have not fucked me every weekend for the last 2.5 years. That'd have been great.
yeah, or
Yeah.
like
Listen
respond.
to my inputs.
Yeah, respond to my inputs when I actively engage with you, when you ask me those day-to-day, week-to-week things, like, what's wrong with this? Oh, hey, we got this gap here. Ah, well, that's inherent, that's natural, that's good, that's supposed to be there. Like, no, it's not.
Don't
No, it's
be
not.
don't be a dump truck full of
Well-
marbles and give me a 5-ounce trash bag, please. That'd be great.
That's a good one. Right. That'd be a great start, just like give me a timely response when I ask for stuff, a yes, no, a fuck you, even just something. Not like 2 weeks after the fact when it's already done past.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes we've made it work, right? But the same people who moved into those upgrade positions, they were just in your shoes, and you're like, cool. They understand, they know the headaches, but then they decide to go hands off, and they're like, hey, you understand this, help me out, and they're like, nah, we're good, fam. Make it work, because I don't want to do anything extra. And you're like, that's not what this was. This wasn't supposed to be this way. You were supposed to. You were the chosen one. You know what I mean?
You were the chosen one.
Betrayal. Such betrayal.
As I'm falling into a pit of lava. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it's not what it was supposed to happen, but it's unfortunate. And like you say, listen to my inputs. Give me feedback. Like Six said, even if it's negative feedback, at least I got something out of you, and I kind of know where I stand at that point. Because if I'm getting negative feedback from when I'm trying to make things better for that individual's company, dude, if you don't want to help me help you make your company better, then why do I care?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And that happens more often than it should.
Ooh, man, that was very heavy.
That was.
I'm starting to get like the backlash again. Like,
Yeah, I was having little PTSD episodes while you guys were talking. That's why I was staring off into space. It's just like, oh yeah, this same story relates to everything we're talking about right now.
yeah,
Yeah, and from my end of it, my story could be a little bit better if I could actually go into detail on specific things with it, but that information I can't discuss too much in depth. I can just give kind of a general overview. But man,
Right.
yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about it as well. Like, God, I should have looked at that and said this and done this and been there for that. And
It just makes me go, oh man, I should have left then.
well, that goes into right. You bring up things and you're like, hey, we could do this to make this better. And like, oh my God, you're always complaining. I'm like, but I'm not complaining. But you're always coming to my office and saying we should fix things and change things. But if I'm always coming, they're like, you're the only one that does that. And I'm like, because nobody else cares. I care. But they
Yeah.
don't see it as caring. They hear it as complaining.
Yeah.
And so they basically, you get labeled as a whiner kind of at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
Until you turn into one of the complacent ones.
Yes, right. And I think like what we're trying to put out is we're just trying to be transparent with our work, so you know what's going on, you know how to respond. We're being honest with the reporting, because if we just give you fudge number data, it's not gonna turn out the way you expect it to when we actually go through and clean it up. And then we're just being empathetic because we want to see everything succeed. We generally want what we're doing to be engaging and to fulfill what its intended purpose is. But whenever we get those three things and you just keep smashing it down and you just say like, you're in my office too much, you talk too much about this, you're always bringing up old shit, as what I've been told a bunch of times. Like, well, maybe it's because it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, it needs to be fixed.
And just ignoring the problem is not going to make it go away. Or just pawning off the problem to another entity that we have zero control over is not the fix.
No, it is not.
Yep. To it though, that's how it all ends with tag you're it, and either you tag the next guy because you quit, or you're forced to tag the next guy because you were asked to move on. Whatever the situation is, but more often than not, I think it's people going, I've had it. I don't want to play this game no more. Tag, you're it. And then on to the next thing. And the cycle continues.
And voting with your feet, as you said.
Yep. That's what it is, man. That's how people vote anymore, right? They might try a couple of times to give some input, and if they get dumped on both times or all times or whatever, they're just going to go, okay, well, I'm obviously not valued here, so let me go find some place that maybe does.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then like Shoreline said, well, what could we have done better? You don't care. You're just doing it because HR is going to come ask you. It's the reason you're asking me.
Yeah, exactly.
Final thoughts, fellers.
Well, with the hot seat or the tag you're it, just if it's you who got tagged, make the best of the situation. I've been in bad situations and had to make the best of it, but most recent case, I got handed a pretty good spot. Everything was working as it should. No real hiccups in the system with the turnover, and now I'm just making things work for me, for how I just my own little isms. You know what I mean? It can be real challenging, as you've heard, but it can also be very rewarding on the other end, because if you've came in and taken a bad situation and turned it into a golden goose, executives high in the chain of command, they notice that, and then now you get labeled a fixer, right? So they take you and they move you up in the chain a little bit, and they take you to all the problem sites and say, this individual can take crap and make it gold. And so with that, you get rewarded pretty good in those situations, but you more often than not are going to be taking over garbage dumpster fires, and then trying to put those out and then turn it into like the Taj Mahal type thing. You know what I'm saying? So just make the best of it what you can, but do the best you can, and it'll all even out in the back end.
For sure. Once again, know your worth, and if you're the guy getting called on, they see something that you have to offer, and if they see that and you feel like you're not that you're being taken advantage of, and that your quote unquote grass is not getting watered, maybe somewhere else is watering their grass.
Yes.
Maybe the grass is greener on the other side.
Or maybe maybe the grass isn't greener, but at least they turn their sprinklers on once every
Yeah.
other day.
Exactly.
Just something better.
Something.
Right. Some water's better than none, right?
That's right.
It's a darker brown than like,
Yeah.
it's not
Oh,
ashes. It's, yeah.
Really. On that note, thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
We'd like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to continue to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners, with special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Ryan Frushauer, Dan Schubert, Jenny Dignan, and the ladies of the Dick Talk and Mimosas podcast. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. Visit our shop at cancelformaintenance.com and grab some swag to show off both your support for us and your prowess as an aircraft technician. If you have ideas for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit our contact us section and send us a line. We will do what we can to get your ideas or yourself on the show. You can also follow us on social media, such as on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at Canx, that's CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or on Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Check out some of our affiliates like Rockwell Time, where they make both rugged and classy watches to fit your lifestyle. Use the code CX4MX and save 10% off your purchase. Support us on Patreon. Our patrons get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord, discounts and early access to merch, special patron-only episodes, and so much more. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.